Oh, all right. How you guys doing today? Welcome to the stream. So we're gonna watch the debate here. Oh, let me see if I can watch it and still. Let me play with something real quick. Hold on. Let's delete this. 1 second. I want to do window capture. All right. Yes, sirree. Here we go. Um, all right, now we got that. Let's pop out chat. Boom, boom. Hey, Keelan. Hey, AJ. Let's watch this together here. All right, here we go. We're not live, but we got some commercials here.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have
Uh,
been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett
did
over the
Sky say
weekend
something? I
to
didn't even see Sky say
succeed the late
something.
Ruth Bader
Is she
Ginsburg
even
on the
here?
court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation
Oh,
and the
good
Senate's
golly.
to
What?
consider a nominee to
What
the
are you
court. Vice
talking
President
about,
Biden,
Sean?
you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call
I
an
mistake
abuse
AJ.
of power. My
Wait,
first
oh, AJ.
question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make and your
All
opponent
right.
wrong? And where do you
Uh,
think
we can watch
a
this together.
Justice
I got
Barrett would
jokes.
take the
We'll
court?
make jokes. If
President
you
Trump,
guys
in this
got
first segment, you
jokes,
go first. Two
bring them
minutes.
in.
Thank you very much.
Bring them
I
in.
will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have
I will say,
consequences.
I'm going to tell
We
you
have
guys
the
both
Senate,
right
we
now, I'm
have the
very
White House,
neutral.
and we have a
Um,
phenomenal nominee, respected by
I'm
all,
very neutral. So
top academic,
don't hate
good
on
in
me.
every way,
I'm
good
going
in
to
every way.
probably make
In
fun of
fact,
both
some of her
candidates.
biggest
So,
endorsers are very liberal
oh my
people
God,
from Notre
this is
Dame
like a
and other
dream I
places. So I
had.
think she's going to be
We got
fantastic.
we
We
got
have
an
plenty of
orange and a
time.
ghost
Even
talking
if we
about
did it after
judges.
the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as
Yeah,
you know.
Raisin percent.
So I think
Yeah,
that she will be
Caitlin.
outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that
In
court.
fact, let
We really
here.
feel that.
You
We have a
guys, oh, you
professor at
guys got
Notre
this. You
Dame,
can see
highly
the
respected
chats.
by all,
You can
said
see the
she's the
chats
single
just like
greatest
me.
student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election,
I
and
mean,
therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the
I know.
Democrats,
The
they
weird
wouldn't
thing
even
is
think
we
about
know what
not
he's
doing
gonna
it. If they
say.
had, the only
You
difference
know,
is they're trying to do it faster.
we know why they're
There's no
gonna
way
say
they
it.
would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped.
I mean,
And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in
I mean,
reverse.
I
So
hate
we
to
won
give
the
this one to
election, and we
Trump,
have the
but
right to
I
do
mean,
it,
he's
Chris.
kind of right,
President Trump,
right? I
thank
mean,
you.
we still
Same
got
question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2
four,
minutes.
5 months.
First of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this,
We
Mr.
got,
Thank you,
President.
Joe.
we got 4 to 5
I,
months
the American
of
people
Trump. I
have a right
mean,
to have a say in who the Supreme Court
he's
nominee
got
is. And that say occurs when they vote for
he's got time
United
to bring
States
in someone
senators
new.
and when they vote for the President of the United States.
And you can bet the
They're not
Democrats
going
will
to
do
get
the
that
exact
chance
same
now
thing.
because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear
Dude,
he wants to
I
get
hate
rid
to
of the
say
Affordable
he's up
Care Act.
against Trump.
He's been running
Trump
on
is
that.
very
He ran on
orange.
that,
He
and
should
he's
have gotten at
governing
least a
on that.
little bit of a tan
He's in the Supreme
because
Court
now he
right
looks
now trying to get rid of
extremely pale next to
the
Trump.
Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people
Just
from
remember,
having
guys, this is all for
insurance,
fun.
health
No
insurance
hate
now,
either way. I don't
if
judge
it
you
goes into
guys.
court.
Yeah,
And
I don't judge you if you're a Biden
the
fan.
justice, and
I
I
don't
have
judge you if
nothing.
you're a
I'm not
Trump
opposed to the
fan.
justice. She
You know,
seems like
this
a very
is
fine person.
believe it
But
or
she's
not,
written before
your
she went
local
to bed,
mayor
which is her
is
right,
more
that she
important
thinks
than
that
this
the
election.
Affordable Care Act is not
If you don't know
constitutional.
who your mayor
The
is,
other
but you
thing
know
that's
who's
on the
running for
court, and
president,
if it's struck
there's something
down, what
wrong.
happens?
Your
Women's
sheriff,
rights are
very
fundamentally
important.
changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be
Mayors can
taken
be
away
really
as
cool.
well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly.
Look, even
at some
Biden's
point,
laughing. He knows what's
10
coming.
years ago or so,
He
she
knows
said
what's
the
coming.
president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time,
He's elected
during
to the
that
next
period of
election.
time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion.
I
Yes,
mean,
I agree.
I mean,
Go
I
ahead,
don't
Vice
blame
President.
Biden.
One,
You gotta laugh.
He
You know,
knows
because
that what I proposed.
you know what Trump's gonna
What I
do.
proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination, that I
Keelan,
won,
he hasn't even
were saying that
started yet.
Biden wanted to allow
The question
people to
is
have private
how
insurance
is
They
Biden gonna
can.
do?
They do. They will under my proposal.
Not what you've
'Cause
said,
he has-
and it's
he has
not
some
what your
options,
party has
whether
said.
to
is
just-
simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform
I
of the
agree,
Democratic
AJ.
Party is what
I agree, AJ.
in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe.
The
Individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let
He's
me ask my
debating the
question, and
moderator.
then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely
coffee
symbolic
going.
executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him. But
Yeah,
that's
you are.
okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something. That there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming
let me
down
talk.
80 or
Yeah,
90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
health
give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost. I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth?
It's
So
like
cheap.
water.
Look at all of the
What?
drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices.
You
we're
can
gonna
just go
allow
down
our
to the
governors now
grocery
to
store,
go to
you
other
know,
countries
get a
to buy
gallon
drugs
for a
because
dollar,
they
gallon
pay
of
just a tiny
insulin for
fraction.
Say this is
dollar.
open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about.
big-
You'll
this
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans
like
make
water.
is that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I
sorry.
can ask you the question, it will
Not what
end.
your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a
He's from
government
Fox,
takeover.
though.
Of
It
health.
I
does
mean-
not. It's only for those
I mean, he
people
is
who are
from
so
Fox,
poor
the
they
moderator.
qualify for Medicaid.
Can't be that bad.
They can get that
Mr.
free
Trump,
in
President
most
Trump.
states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto,
when
we
you-
call it.
when
And that gives
manifesto-
you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
By
here standing
much.
facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have lost today. You would
Pocahontas.
have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies.
Well, I
Everybody
mean-
knows he's a liar.
What, you
I
mean,
just
you
wanna
mean
make
you
sure-
you
No,
can't get
I-
insulin like
I
water?
wanna make sure.
What?
You ordered last in your class,
I-
not first in your
I-
class.
What
I
if
wanna
they
make
fact
sure-
check that,
Can you let him finish,
AJ?
sir?
No, he
If
doesn't
they
know how to
fact
do
check
that.
that, I
He
want to
has-
see
you
the
know,
fact check of
you
insulin
picked-
is like
surprised.
The
water.
wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let
Now you're
him-
disavowing it.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
You
two.
just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized, they
doing?
call it
Mr.
Medicare
You
for
have-
All.
Trump
Right.
now speaks for the
Socialized
left, by the
Mr.
way.
President.
I'll tell you what.
He's
he
now
is
now
not
master of the
for
left.
any help
He can
for
speak
people
for the
needing
left.
health care. Because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting
what
health care
recession?
through Obamacare now that he wants
What
to take it
recession are we
away.
talking about?
He won't ever look me in the eye and
pandemic?
say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a much lower price
But-
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you
Obamacare
realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I
Wait,
want to help
that's a
people,
choice?
Okay?
Was that
I
a
said, "You're gonna
choice?
run it
Like a
so
real
well."
one?
That's
He
what he
could
did.
have let him
just
run
had a meeting
badly
with
or
them.
not
They said,
badly?
the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive,
I got you.
premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his people
we
said.
we do
No,
want to
no,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I
that's
have
cheaper
to
and
give you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Please let the
He
vice
has no
president
plan
talk.
for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since
let
he
me
got
check something real
elected.
quick,
He has
if I-
none,
if I
like
can.
almost everything else he
right,
talks about.
perfect.
He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you.
No, I mean, we know he
Mr.
doesn't
Vice
know what he's
President.
talking about. I mean,
If Senate Republicans,
He doesn't.
We were talking originally about the Supreme Court
Unfortunately.
here.
Most
If
of them-
Senate Republicans
neither of them
go
pretty much
ahead
do.
and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending
See
the
the manager.
filibuster or even packing the court,
Please,
adding
let
to the
the
9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote
But you're
now.
enjoying
Back
it,
to the
aren't
what?
you,
Sure, you in
AJ?
fact
You're
let people
enjoying
know
this.
He doesn't
You're
wanna
a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who is
shut
your-
up, man?
listen,
Oh,
Who's
snap!
This is
Biden
so-
pulled out the
Gentlemen,
shut up!
This
We've
is
ended
so
this-
Will you just
unprecedented.
shut up, man?
We're not gonna get
No,
into
we
this.
have
that's,
ended
will
this
you
segment.
shut
We're
up,
gonna move on to the
Mr.
second
President?
segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
The heck am I
Keep yapping,
hearing?
man.
The people understand.
My
you.
micro.
They should.
47 years you've done nothing. They
Oh,
understand.
no, we're watching the
The
debate on
second
live stream.
subject is COVID-19, which is
How's
a
it
very
going,
serious
Rhino?
subject. So
Yeah, I'm live streaming
let's
the
try to be
debate.
serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases
Oh, it's
of
hilarious.
coronavirus in the United States, and
many
more
people
than
are watching? Is it just
200,000 people
3 at the
have
moment.
died. Even after we
AJ,
produce
Keelan.
a vaccine,
I don't know who else
experts
is
say
there.
that it could be months or
Trump,
even
Trump,
years
Trump.
before we come back to anything
Gotta get my political
approaching
views.
Oh, good God.
normal. My question for both of you is, based on what
know
you have
that-
said
the-
and done so
Didn't y'all
far, and what
reset
you have said
the-
you would do
Yeah, we
starting
did.
in 2021,
Yeah, I did. I reset the
why
hardcore
should the
server.
American
Right.
people trust
Put
you
me on
more
it.
than your opponent
Debate
Got
time.
someone to join.
to deal with this
Hey, I got someone to
public
join
health
and they
crisis
died
going
off
forward?
just
In this
instantly.
case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes
I had to
uninterrupted.
make up a poor
luck.
excuse for them to join,
200,000 dead.
so
As
I
you said,
wouldn't be
over 7
embarrassed of
million
almost
infected in
getting
the United
killed by a
States.
drowned.
We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the
Yeah,
world's population.
they're telling me to mute you,
20% of
by
the
the way,
deaths.
Rhino.
40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that,
Hey.
about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, "It is what it is." Well, it is
We're not,
what
we're
it
not
is
doing
because you
Minecraft
are
right now.
who
It's
you are.
it's debate time.
That's why it is.
If you're not going to
The
talk
president
debate,
has
Politics.
no plan.
yeah, if you're not going
He
to talk
hasn't
debate, you
laid
gotta
out
go.
anything. He knew all the way back
Trump,
in
Trump.
February how serious this crisis
I can
was.
hear it
He
from
knew
my
it was
TV
a
in the other
deadly
room.
disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he
He was
knew it.
playing it.
He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed
Zach, what
in
are you
order to be able
playing?
to go
Oh,
out
good
and
golly.
get
Sorry,
people the
I
help
got-
they
I gotta-
need
I
to
gotta
keep their
boot you right
businesses
now.
open schools that cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap
moved to
and
a
get
general.
in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we
wait,
would have listened
Wait,
to
you have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic, he's a racist, and he's xenophobic, because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it.
Fox
but
News.
I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was
no
lethal
recession.
disease,
You made a
by the way.
point. Let him answer.
And there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people. You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't.
Is Trump trying
What
to kiss him?
we trust as a scientist.
You don't
We
trust
Is he
Johnson,
trying to kiss him?
Johnson, Pfizer.
And by the way,
Gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be
Science is always cool. It's only cool if it's on your side. I mean, we all know that.
Generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
It's a flu.
Dr.
a
Slowey,
virus.
the head of your
flu.
Operation Warp
Cold as a
Speed,
bacteria.
has said exactly
Know
the
your
same
science.
thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to
Biden's
Pfizer.
brand.
I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others.
No.
They can go faster than that
I think
by a
Biden
lot.
fell asleep. I think
Very
Biden just
political
fell asleep.
because the left, or I don't know if I
So
call him
you're
left.
suggesting
Oh,
that
no,
the
he
head
woke
of your
up. He's wondering
Operation
where he
Warp
is.
Speed, Dr.
I
Slowey,
disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally
Hashtag
available.
I'm not
No, we're
American.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
this
delivering
is the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Oh, he
This is
just
the
pulled
same
out the
man.
bleach.
Sarcastically,
That was
you know that. I would have said sarcastic.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine.
They need to go to
And pray
commercial. I got
God we will.
thoughts. I got
Pray God we
thoughts.
will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though,
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are
I just want to
reluctant to
point
take
out
it, are
my
you and your running mate,
kitty
Senator
cat's feeling
Harris,
sorry for
contributing
me.
to that fear?
No more
I
than
don't
the
know if you
question
can-
you just
you can
asked
see
me.
him.
You pointed out.
He's
He puts
laying on my
pressure
arm and stuff.
disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
or Senator
Yeah, you can see
Harris
him
is
right
saying
here.
you can't trust the scientists.
No. You can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust.
She said the public
Hey.
health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote,
Hey,
will be
then you-
muzzled, will
Yes.
be suppressed.
AJ, then you won't have
that's what he's
COVID
gonna try
anymore.
to do, but there's millions of
It's a
scientists,
cure.
thousands of scientists
Duh.
out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
and
charge.
By the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies
How do
he's
you do
told
the
you
Trump
about
thing?
the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or
I'm
he
doing
just
the
looked at
Trump.
the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If
Let me
you
just
would have
tell you
had
something. I'm the best
the
president,
charge
the
of
greatest
what
there
I
ever
put
was. There's
through.
never
I had
been
to
a
close
president
the
like
greatest
me.
economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
he's
it's
We're going
going
to get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking
When
about
it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by
Very
whichever
different
of you
because
ends
that's what
up
they
becoming
do.
the next
They-
president.
they
I
do
want
the
to
exact
quickly go
opposite.
through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President
There's
Biden,
nothing
you have
smart about
been
this
much
debate.
more reluctant
No,
than
AJ.
President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they
stands
need.
for
You have to
personal
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
In case you're wondering.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi.
And
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits on his golf course. And, well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did a
ju- he
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second.
He's so.
We want
I,
him.
I mean,
He wants to
with
shut down
all
the
his
country.
remarks,
We
he's
just went
very
through it.
witty.
We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be
Thank
hurt
you guys for the
by
likes, by the
continuing.
way.
If you look
I'm
at
watching them.
Pennsylvania, if
Thank
you
you
look at
very
certain
much.
states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors.
I'm glad
all.
you guys are
One of the
enjoying
reasons
this,
they're shut
you
down
know.
is because they want to keep it
This
shut
is
down
important.
until after the election on
yeah.
November
I wanna
3rd.
move
Kinda
on to
dumb,
another
but it is
subject.
important.
I wanna
Political.
move on to another
I've
subject.
gotta
But
respond.
those,
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants
President
to shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness
Yeah.
of masks as a disease preventer.
witty,
and
but
in
not
fact,
smart.
recently you have
You're
cited
right,
the
AJ.
issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks and social distance between now and
wish you luck,
January, we'd
Rev.
probably
I
save
don't-
up to 100,000 lives.
I don't know if I would
It
consider
matters.
this
And they've also said the
politics.
opposite. They've also
And
said
no,
the opposite.
no
That-
serious person said the
It's a
opposite.
strong word.
No
Well, look
serious
all right, I
at
wanna
Dr.
ask you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got
He
a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
I had a feeling he was
True.
going to
Nobody
say
shows up to
that.
his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
you've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Well,
and
You're
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
You're
people.
watching
Well,
the
so
debate
far,
now,
we have
Rev.
had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Go ahead, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had?
In Ohio?
And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect.
Well,
And we've
my,
had
you know,
35, 40
fair
thousand
point.
people
My
at
mom
these
went to a
rallies.
rally
Just
last
quickly
week.
finish up because I want to move
and
on to our next.
she
Yes, I
had
would.
to wear a
He's
mask
been totally
and was
irresponsible
tested.
the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy
I do not
is,
like
I
how
think it's fair
Trump,
to say,
Trump
recovering
just speaks for
faster
everybody.
than expected
I don't
from
like
the shutdown.
Much
This-
faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically
Is he
to do.
debating
He didn't
China
think we
now?
should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000
How do you
people
have a
is too much.
K-shape?
One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a
Video
look at
game
what's happening
addiction.
in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns.
Cat
And I'm
hoarding.
telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear a mask. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are
Go ahead,
under siege.
mention every swing
Pennsylvania,
state. Yep,
Michigan,
swing
and a
state.
couple of others.
Swing
You
state.
got to open these states up. It's
Come
not
on,
fair.
Ohio,
You're talking
Vermont,
about
let's
almost
go.
It's like being in
Let's
prison.
go.
And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
No,
The difference
no
is
commercial.
millionaires and
is that a
billionaires like
commercial?
him in the middle of the COVID crisis
Are you
have
saying
done very well.
Biden's a
Billionaires
millionaire?
have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont,
he's
and all
looking
the
at me.
small towns and working class towns in America.
That's my
How well are
town.
you doing? This guy paid
I'm watching
a total
you.
of $750 in
wrong.
taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's
It's
his
the wrong
Yeah, I
statement.
understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I
Oh,
get
he's
my time
staring
back?
into my.
The fact is
Get
that
my time
he
back.
has,
Are we in the
fact,
Senate?
worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs.
Yeah, but
than when he
that's
became
not
president.
his
First
fault.
one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the
Please
states
stop
in
looking at
America
me,
with a
Biden.
significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID
those
cases
beady
in
eyes.
the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought
I
to
agree with
get
that. Those
on
small
the job
businesses
and
got
take care of the
screwed.
needs of the American people so
My
we
dad
can
owns a
open
small
safely.
business.
Your
I
time
own a
is
small
up, sir.
business.
We are going to get to.
I
we're
have
gonna,
to respond
screwed.
to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
Excuse me.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open.
Excuse
They
me,
don't want to
sir.
be
I'd
shut
like to
down.
speak to
They
the
don't want their
manager,
state
please.
shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York.
You
It's so
got it
sad
right,
what's
Keith.
happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
Okay.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very
College
happy to
football?
do it. And
All
the
right,
people of
let's-
college
Ohio
football.
are very proud of
They're
me.
both
and
carrying.
you know
We're going
how
to
I
get
found
back,
out? When he took a
gentlemen,
phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you
I just
well
want
know,
to point
there's a
out
new
the president
report
just
that in
stole like a minute worth of
2016, the year
time.
you were elected president, and
what?
2017, your first year as president, that you paid
Keelan, you just got
$750 a year in
timed out.
federal income tax each of those
Why?
years.
Oh, too many
I
emojis.
know that you pay
Don't-
a lot of
don't
other
use
taxes,
all those
but
emojis.
I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you
see you in
paid
5 minutes,
$750
Keelan.
in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged
you,
because
Rep.
the
Thank you,
assets are
Rep.
extremely good. And we have a very, I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all
return.
of that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Trump's
I'm
like,
asking
I'm
you a
the
question.
president.
Will you
Yeah.
tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of
Oh,
dollars.
look at that
You
smug
paid
look.
millions of dollars?
Millions of
Biden's
dollars.
got
So not
now.
750.
Millions of
Got
dollars,
'em.
and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just say
Inshallah?
something.
Is that you say
It was the
heaven?
tax laws.
Won't be long then.
I don't want to pay tax.
Not for you,
Before
Biden.
I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made
Yeah, I do
him,
want to respond.
put him in a position that he pays less tax than
It
a
is.
school teacher.
This is like a circus.
make
That's why we're
than
watching
on
this.
The money a school
This
teacher
is
makes,
enjoyable.
is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator.
You're the worst
You were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more
He's trying.
in
Biden's
47
trying.
months.
He's
I've
trying
done
to
more than
snap
you've done in
back.
47 years, Joe. We've done things that you
just
never even
doesn't
thought of
seem-
doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen,
fixing the broken
same.
military that you gave me,
Let's-
including taking care of
We're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr.
don't
Vice
have any
President, your
plans.
economic plan,
They don't
if
have
you
any.
were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make, the federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company
But respectfully,
in America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed
The economy
before.
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market
Tell me
goes
about
up,
the
that means
stock
jobs.
market.
It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah. It
before
Puts the
COVID?
Biden on the
but
skin or
because
else
what
it
he
gets the
did,
Trump
even
again.
before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and
Yeah,
Michigan.
back in,
He blew it. They're
1932.
gone. He blew
when
it. And in fact,
Biden
they're
was
going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No.
came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And
that.
they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what
What?
he's actually done.
I
He's
think you need
done
one
very little.
emote,
His
Keelan.
trade
Looks
deals
like
are
he
the
just
same
got
way.
timed out
He talks
again.
about these great trade
Oh,
deals.
no.
You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have
art
a
of the
higher
steal?
deficit with
That's
China
his
now
book.
than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out.
Oh.
He takes out billions of dollars.
knew this was
Takes
coming.
out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
not.
it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's
30
wife gave
seconds.
your son
You only got
$3.5
timed out for
million.
30 seconds.
What
That's
did he
not
do
true.
to deserve it?
That
What
is-
did he do with Burisma
None
to
of that-
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question, let
true.
him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please. You've
totally
asked a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he
Put
didn't
the-
get
put the
$3.5
president in
million,
timeout.
Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
Dang, you got
it is
deleted?
not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an
Oh,
open
no
discussion,
caps.
please.
Now,
It's a fact.
That's what
Well,
it is,
there's-
Keelan.
there's
You
Don't
have
no
raised an
no
issue, let
caps.
the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
I'm
job.
I'm
I'm
just
son
gonna
did
make
nothing
you. I'm
wrong
just gonna
at
make you a
Burisma.
mod,
He did.
Keelan.
Mr.
That
President,
way
Let
you
him
won't get timed
answer.
out.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone.
Oh.
Has discredited. Matter of fact,
Mr.
even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
He's
you.
not-
People
just
under-
keep
he got
going.
$3.5
He
million
testified.
from
Turn off his
Moscow.
mic.
He
Turn off his
testified under
mic.
oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I don't
All
even know
honorably."
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already
Okay,
fired
I won't
most
mind
of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
Some people don't
well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
you
Oh.
get
Here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get
I got the
final
new
word.
Trump
Well, it's
novel
hard to
right
get any
here.
word in
Here's
with
the
this
new Trump
time.
novel.
Excuse me. This,
Hey, let me just say, Joe.
No. I'm Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
Here we go.
that is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote
a fortune by
Trump,
coming down and
Trump,
helping
come
us
on.
with government.
Let him
That's
talk.
They're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such a
Let
shame.
him talk.
This is not
Mr.
about
President.
my
Coming and
family or his
helping us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your
Please.
family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the, end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take that.
Vice President,
But Chris,
no.
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I
stood
get it.
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the trust.
You know what? You're
absolutely not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In
That's
that
what they
segment,
say about
you
Trump.
each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions.
You want to know how the company's really going to be better served?
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he
Keith's
does
dad for
plenty.
president.
Well,
No,
less
I
than-
didn't say that.
sir,
I didn't
less
say
than
that. I
plenty.
didn't say
No,
that.
less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President
There you go, right.
Trump's
Well,
response
you're a mod,
to the
so-
violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides,
Yeah.
was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is,
Possible.
why should
Po-
voters trust
possible
you rather
exception.
than your opponent to
Possible.
deal with the race issues facing this
It's
country over the next
debatable
4 years?
whether or not
Vice President Biden, you go
freeing them
first.
from slavery
It's about equity and
is
equality. It's
equivalent.
about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished.
Do you see what they're
it. But we've
doing now?
never
They're
walked away
taking
from it like
Trump.
he has done.
His
It
camera's
is true.
off.
The
Oh,
reason
there
I
we
got
go.
in the
Now it's
races when
back.
those people, close your eyes. Remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is whose
Now,
2 minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did.
They must have messed with his tint because he is not as orange as he normally is.
Community.
He looks a little paler, and
President
Biden
Trump,
looks
you have
paler.
2 minutes. Why should
Biden looks like a
Americans
ghost.
trust you
Trump
over your
looks like,
opponent to deal
I
with
don't know.
racism?
He kind of looks like a thumb to me.
1994.
Look, it's
where
Trump.
you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you
Cheese
don't.
and shrimp?
The top
AJ,
10 cities and
cheese and
just
shrimp?
about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and, in many cases, radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
I want and demand
All right.
Minecraft.
I want to return to the question
All day.
of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest? No, it's not, but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas, and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want that.
I'm pretty sure
Many
most
people
of
don't
America
hurt
are
other
feeling
people's feelings,
insulted and
but
demeaning
it makes a big difference.
right now.
It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
Violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and order.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're down. Mr. President, you're going to. Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has
In the
been a
criminal
dramatic
justice
increase in
system,
homicides
sexually
in
based
America
offenses are considered
this
especially
summer,
heinous.
particularly,
In
and
New
you
York
often
City,
blame that on Democratic
dedicated detectives
mayors
who
and Democratic
investigate
governors,
the
but in fact there have
vicious
been
felonies are members
equivalent
of an elite
spikes
squad
in
known as the
Republican-led
Special
cities
Victims
like
Unit.
Tulsa and Fort Worth.
Law and
so the
order.
question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look
I
at
can't.
Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died, shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He wouldn't know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised,
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their
Biden would
kids to
know about
soccer practice and or
1950.
to black and white and Hispanic
He was
in the
60
same
back
car
then.
as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of
Do
policing?
you mean you want
What I
the
support
presidential
is
candidates
the
to run
police
over
having the
strippers? Is that what you're
opportunity
asking
to deal
for,
with the
AJ?
problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're talking about.
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you.
A group?
Go ahead.
Look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
Look,
Name one
folks,
law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In
protests.
Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful
all I do
protests.
is kill
Many of those
police.
turned into riots. Mr. Vice President,
That's not very
you
nice.
say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party
This
right
is
now.
going to put him into a
Have
corner.
you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
No, well, the
I
answer
don't
is
hold
no.
public office now. I am
yeah, but you-
a former vice president. I've made it
But
clear.
you have lots
I've
of
made it
polls.
clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
Oh,
the
every
leader-
traffic
excuse
light
me,
in
sir.
Vice City.
You have never called for the leaders in Portland and
This is a tough
in
question
Oregon
for Biden.
to call
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
Well,
thing.
no,
I
that-
sent
sir,
in
no,
the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former
by the way,
spokesperson
Trump.
said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
Kellyanne
And here's
Conway.
But here's the point.
The
point is
Trump
that
fangirl.
That's what he is, keeps
That's
trying
what
to
she
rile
is.
everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down.
Yes, I did
Instead
hear
of
that,
going in
Keelan,
and
that he
talking
was
to people
officially
and saying,
taken out of the
let's
code
get
in
everybody together,
1.16.3.
figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly.
Biden is the
every single
Democrat, Rev.
solitary
Okay,
time.
and to
Trump is
end this,
Republican.
button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer,
In
sir.
case you wanted to
You
know.
have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love
you
to
know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
you
we
know, if
would
you want to
Mr.
switch
President,
to Keiths,
we
we
would
could
very
Let the
quickly.
we could do
moderator
that. But
I
I'm
talk.
said in the National Guard it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and
Yeah.
to say that they
Do it.
need to stand down
I bet
and
you he'll
not
do it.
add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in
bet you he'll do
Kenosha
it.
and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what are you-
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do
called out the
something about
Proud Boys.
Antifa and the left, because this is not a
Yeah.
right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is
just
a
he did. He
left-
said it.
director
This
Proud
is
Boys,
a
stand
left-wing
back.
problem.
White
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
Not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna,
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're
Everybody-
moving on to the
Yeah,
next. We're
Antifa
moving
is
on.
left
That
wing.
is your
Far,
administration,
far
not an
left
idea.
wing, Rob.
Everybody
Antifa
in your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group.
now moving on
It
to
is
the
a
Trump
group.
and
You ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll
It is a
overthrow
group. It's
you.
not
When
an
a
idea.
president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a
And
referendum
Biden
on
wouldn't
his
say
record.
that, by the way.
But Vice President
That's
Biden, you like to
interesting.
quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask
Wait,
each of
who's
you,
the alternative?
why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President
This is
Trump
how.
will go first.
This
2
is
minutes.
how.
Because
one
there
second.
has
Let me
never
see.
been an administration or
Here we go.
president who has done more
This-
than I've
this is
done
what Democrats
in a period
think.
of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax.
And
you
you'll
saw
have
what
to
happened
excuse
today
me
with
for
Hillary
the,
Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and
This is
behind me and,
the new
and above,
Biden bumper
there has never
sticker.
been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest,
was the
before COVID
Democrat
came in, the greatest
bumper
economy in
sticker
history, lowest
for ya.
unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately
Are there guns at your
300
debate, Rev?
federal judges and Court of Appeals
Guns?
judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great
Oh, there is
Supreme
no
Court
debate?
judges, justices. That
One
is
guy's just paid off?
record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us
crimes
128
committed.
openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Time, sir.
300 judges. It's a
tried.
record.
Looking at both of your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin
I haven't
about
even
the
heard
bounty on the heads of
anything.
American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And by the
no,
way,
Mr.
Trump,
my son,
wait a minute.
President.
Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no, no,
So-
I'm not
so
asking.
what are-
That was a
you're
rhetorical
referring-
question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you
Gage?
talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you know Bo.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine
discharged.
use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
My son,
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he
I'm proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
dollars?
But he wasn't given
All right.
tens of
He
millions
was
of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
President Trump,
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator,
are we
sir, I'm
talking
gonna
about
make a
substantial
judgment call here.
subjects?
$3.5 million.
I haven't heard a
from the
single
mayor
one.
of Moscow.
That
talk
is
about
not
it.
It's a
true.
Gentlemen,
That report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
Oh,
Mitt
you're messing
Romney
up my
on that committee
robe.
said it wasn't
Oh,
worth
I'm so-
taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The
So would
forest fires
I.
in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have
When I was
displaced
born, we were in an
hundreds
ice
of thousands
age.
of people. When state officials there blame the
He
fires
really
on
did,
climate
Rev.
change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records.
I think the robe is
What
fixed
do you
now.
believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers
And as
right
we
now,
know,
we are
insulin
doing
is like
phenomenally.
water.
But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a
So,
disaster from our
we
standpoint.
want clean
and
insulin.
people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things
Don't
do, but I
forget
think
cow
to an
farts.
extent, yes.
Why
I think
aren't we
to an
talking
extent,
about
yes,
cow
but
farts?
I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call,
Clean
California's
bleach for
burning.
all.
California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country, It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm
California's
getting
super
along very well with the
dry.
governor. But
I
I
don't
said,
know
you know, at some
anywhere in
point,
Europe that's
you can't
dry.
every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at
He's
least
lost me. Did
double
he
and
lose you
triple the
guys?
number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice
They
President
do.
Biden,
I
I'd
had
like you
I had a
to
car in
respond
California,
to the president's
and
climate
the
change
catalytic
record, but I also
converter,
want to
which
ask you
cleans the
about a concern. You
exhaust,
proposed $2 trillion
blew,
in
and I had to
green
take it to
jobs. You
to
talked
the,
about new limits, not abolishing,
the
but new
mechanic,
limits on
and
fracking,
that's where I found out
ending
that
the
while
use of
most
fossil
cars have
fuels to
one
generate
catalytic
electricity by
converter,
2035,
my car
and
actually
zero
had
net
4
emission of greenhouse
because
gases
it
by
was set for
2050.
California
The
emissions.
president says a lot of
4
these things
catalytic
would
converters.
tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
So
He's
you know what they
absolutely
did?
wrong, number one. Number two,
They
if
replaced
in
one of
fact,
them and drilled
when
holes
during
in
our
the other
administration,
3.
the Recovery Act, I was able to bring down the
And I was
cost
still
of
within the
renewable energy
emission
to
standards
cheaper
of the
than
rest of
or
the
as
United
cheap as
States.
coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways
Oddly
that we're going
enough,
to be building in the
Trump
future.
would be
We're going to
amazing
build
on
an
TikTok.
economy that, in fact, is going to provide
He's very
for
witty.
the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they
the
want to rip
Biden
down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not
where
the case.
airplanes are out of
minute, sir.
business,
That's it.
where two-car systems are out,
It is
where they
true.
want to
True.
take out the cows too.
Not-
You know that's
cows-
not true either, right?
Now
This
we're
is
talking
a-
about cow
This
farts.
is a 100
Simply-
trillion.
Look,
That's
did. They
more
wanted to-
money
I
than
remember
our
that. They
country
wanted
could
to-
make in
That is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going by.
the case.
All right, let me,
will-
let me,
it will
let me,
destroy
because,
our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs,
$100
good-paying
trillion.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
trillion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And
Can
here's
we
the
do
deal.
that?
You make up a
We
lot.
we
Can
are
we do
gonna
that?
be in a
There's your
position
solution,
where
AJ.
we
There
can
is
create
your-
hard.
We need this
hard,
game
good jobs
where your
by
job
making
is to
sure
drop
the
nuclear
environment
weapons on
is clean,
hurricanes.
and we all are in better shape. We spend
That sounds like a
billions of dollars
fantastic
now,
idea. What could go
billions
wrong?
of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen
Wait.
before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every.
If he
asked-
knew
you asked-
anything
wait, no, no,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen?
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen?
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He just-
He said
did the
stupid
president just say
bastards.
stupid
Sir,
bastard?
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play
to
it.
the military.
Play it.
Go ahead. Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of
How
all
many
of
times have you heard the word
You know,
stupid
much.
I'm having a little trouble
bastard
myself.
in a
but,
presidential
and
debate?
about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
Where's
environmental
that on my
deal
bingo
do.
card?
Green New
Where is
Deal
that? It's
will
not, it's not
pay
here.
for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
you
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
block.
lost the radical left.
I,
That's
sup-
Just lost
I
the radical-
support
He
the
did.
Biden plan.
He lost
that
it
I put
earlier
forward.
when-
Okay.
The Biden plan,
He
which
did.
is different than what he calls
There-
the radical Green New Deal.
All right,
The
gentlemen.
radical left
final
isn't going to
segment.
like what Biden has to say
Election
right now.
integrity. As we
But
meet
then again, the radical
tonight,
right,
millions
which
of
is
Americans
arguably
are
smaller.
receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own
IwillVote.com.
Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, We're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and their
Here we
polls
go.
stay open until the
Oh, it's
votes are
blue.
counted.
It's
And this is
blue.
all
I
about
wonder.
trying to dissuade people
I
from
wonder.
voting because
Oh,
he's trying to
we're in
to scare people
Espanol.
into thinking that
What
it's
do we
not going to be
got?
legitimate.
What do we
Show
got?
up and vote.
Own your vote.
You will determine the
What is
outcome
this?
of this election. Vote,
What is this?
vote, vote. If you're able
What
to
is
vote early
this?
in your state, vote early.
Oh,
if you're able
no.
to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way
Oh,
for
no.
you. Because he cannot stop you from being able
I
to
had a
determine the
feeling.
outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you
It is
understand
a trap,
you
AJ.
have it in your control to
I had a
determine
feeling.
what this country's going to look like the next 4 years. Is
I
it
had a
going to
feeling
change?
it
Or
was
you
gonna
get
be a
4 more
Democratic
years of
push
these
on that.
lies?
Mr.
Nothing.
President, 2 minutes.
Nothing is
So,
unbiased in this
when
world.
I
in this,
listened to
in this
Joe talking about a transition.
country anymore.
There's
Nothing
been
is
no
unbiased.
transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there
Name
was
them
no
all.
transition because they came after
only
me trying
mentioned
to do a
Pocahontas
coup.
once.
They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the
And
Logan
they're all
Act
in
against
jail.
General Flynn. You better
Wait,
take
what?
a look at
They're-
that because we caught you in a
Oh,
sense. And
none of them
President
are in
Obama
jail?
was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me
because
about
we
a
don't
free
have them?
transition.
Oh, we
as
don't
far
have any
as the ballots are
information?
concerned, it's a
Oh, okay.
disaster.
Yeah,
A
I completely made that
solicited
up.
ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other
I
thing,
am too,
it's
Rev,
nice on
really,
November 3rd,
to be
you're
honest.
watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job
Fix my
we've done.
green
But
screen.
you know what?
You can't
we won't
tell
know.
if I
We
look
might
like I'm
not
having
know
a
for
seizure.
months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan.
Not
Take
really,
a look at what
AJ.
happened in
I mean,
New
the
Jersey.
president
Take a look
has
at what
very
happened in
little
Virginia and other
power.
places.
They really
They're not
do.
losing 2%, 1%,
I mean,
which,
they're a
by the way, is too
figurehead,
much.
but
An
that's
election could
about
be won or
it.
lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major
No,
states with
time,
that.
sir.
All run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a
Trump,
2 minutes
rigged
is
election.
2
You're going
minutes.
to be able to continue. You have been charging
Quote
for months
of
that
the
mail-in
day.
balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the
Yeah, Mr.
Supreme
President.
Court,
What you
including
could do
Justice
about it?
Barrett, to settle any
Nothing.
dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the
Nothing.
ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself.
Trump's
but for
gonna
the
count
ballots,
'em
I think
one
so.
by one.
Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But
They
what are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it? If
left
there
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now,
do
what
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I'm not,
okay,
I know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
rece-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at
Kitty
West
cat, we're
Virginia,
watching the
mailmen selling
debate.
the ballots.
Don't you want to watch
They're
the
being
debate with
sold.
us?
They're being dumped in rivers.
Kitty cat.
This is a horrible thing for our
watch the
country.
debate.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home.
I mean,
what we're
Hillary
saying
was
is,
pretty
they're
bad,
saying
not
is that it
gonna
has to be
lie.
a
Hillary
postmark
was pretty
by
bad.
the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows what the
wrong.
outcome
You're
will be.
wrong.
No,
I love
I want
counting
to
votes.
continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
votes.
Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you file,
Stop
when you
looking at
get
me,
a ballot
Biden.
and you fill it out,
Stop looking at me.
you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able
How
to
do you
count the
do that
ballot
Trump
because
look,
someone
though?
made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me,
No,
Chris,
no, no.
when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail service
deception.
delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen.
Yeah, you said
Final
it in
question
mail.
is,
Mail it
in
in.
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in
a-
8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process
This,
ballots, even take
This
them
is
out of
way-
the envelopes
this is
and
way
then
more-
flatten them until
this is way
election
more
day. That means
entertaining.
that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in
Yes.
balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we
Are you
find out who
watching the debate, or you're
the new
watching my
president
kitty
is.
cats
So
lick each other?
first for you, sir, finally for the vice president,
Come
I hope
on,
neither of you will
which is more
interrupt the other.
entertaining?
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to
Isn't
happen.
that
I am
adorable?
urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean you're
I'll
gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to
It
the
means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one.
That's a good
Number
question.
two,
Answer
they
the
cheat.
question, President.
They cheat. Hey, they found
Are you gonna
ballots
tell
in
your
a
people
waste
to go
paper
to the
basket
street?
3 days ago, and they all had the name military
Is the
ballots. They were
Trump
military.
mafia gonna
They all
take
had
to
the
the
name
streets?
Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory
this is
until the election
nonsense,
is
though,
independently
because-
certified?
Yes. and
Because
here's the deal.
usually one of the
You count
candidates will
ballots, as you
actually
pointed out.
concede.
Some of these ballots in
prior.
some states can't even be opened until
That's what
election
happens
day.
on election night.
And if there's thousands of ballots going to
On
take
election
time
night,
to
it's
do
not
it.
that
And by the
somebody
way,
wins,
our
it's that
military,
somebody
they've been
concedes.
voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's
Hillary
what's
Clinton
going to happen. Why
conceded.
was it not? Why is it for them somehow not
I don't know why we're
fraudulent?
talking about
It's
this.
the same
This is
process.
pointless.
It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already
Oh,
been
my
established.
goodness.
Take a look at
He
Carolyn
said
Monroe's
mail-
race in
I asked
Manhattan.
you,
mail-in
you have an opportunity to
ballots.
Look at Carolyn
respond.
Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have
The
no idea what
feminists are going to
happened.
go
Biden, go ahead.
crazy on
He has
that.
no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me,
He
I'll
doesn't seem too
support the
sure about
outcome,
himself.
and I'll be a president not just for
He
the
doesn't.
Democrats.
Trump's
I'll
gonna
be a
watch.
president for
Trump's gonna be like,
Democrats and
when it's
Republicans.
me.
And this
Watch.
guy,
I
if
want to
in
see an
fact,
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is
I
the end
wanna
of
see
this
an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And
going to
I think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued
does.
as in more debates as
Oh,
we go
to be
on.
continued.
President Trump,
No.
Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow,
What do we
October
got?
7th,
We
at
got
the
just a couple
University of
seconds left.
Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you
No, Rev. Like I
and good
said,
night.
let here we go. Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, the circus is over. Like I said, um, victory is declared when the other candidate concedes. They drop out. Hillary Clinton dropped out of the race in 2016. That's so even though votes were still being counted, Hillary Clinton dropped out, and so Biden declared victory that night. Pretty early actually, if I recall. Um, that might not be the case, but usually that's what happens. I hope you guys enjoyed that. You guys stayed with me the whole time. We had a fun time. I thought this was really fun. I got a story for you. My mom, she lives in a swing state. She lives in a swing state, and my mom is a massive Trump supporter. Almost a little scary. I get on her case a lot, right? And um, now my mom has she has a pretty big house. I mean, it's almost like I mean, I wouldn't say it's a mansion. It was a mansion, you know, like 60 years, 70 years ago. Huge house. It used to be, a huge house. Now houses are way bigger. But anyway, she has a huge house and she has a Trump signs. She had Trump signs outside of her house. And because she lives in a swing state, you have oh, this is where the problems form. When you put out a Biden sign in Massachusetts, no one touches it because, I mean, Massachusetts is constantly blue. But in Ohio, that's where you start getting the problems because people are half and half. And what ended up happening is she had uh she had someone steal her Trump sign one night, right? And um it it wasn't uh it it was a normal Trump sign. You know the Trump signs you normally look at? Well, someone stole that Trump sign from her house. And so that day, when she noticed that it was missing, she went into her garage and she made a Trump sign. No lie here. This is totally not made up. I swear to you, right? And this was her Trump sign. This is the Trump sign she made. Load in. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, here. Oh, love it. Let's make it big. This is my mom's new Trump sign. So this is this is this is not a joke. This is for real, serious. She seriously made this Trump sign. And like, yes, yes, she made two. She made two Trump signs. I'll show you the other one as well. But um here's the other Trump sign. This is going to take a second to load too, because I have a feeling this is going to be big as well. Um, wait, we got to, okay, here we go. Make this big. All right, here's, do I? can I mean, can I not? It says honk for Trump. So this is her, you can see her house in the background. I mean, it's nice. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. But look what she made. It's on what is that? Plywood? What kind of wood is that? It's some sort of, wood, but so she made this honk for Trump 2020, but it's this one. It's this one I want to talk about, right? First of all, my mom is not the greatest of artists. As we can see, it does look like a no, 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 no. It does, it does look like a no, no when you. But here, all right. Look at the hair. Look, she even put out his little thing that goes. It's got and then what's up with his face? Has my mom ever looked at Trump? I mean, I mean, why did she paint his face black? Why did my mom give Trump blackface? Why? What? Like, what is this? I mean, you can't make this up. This is ridiculous. But yes, this is outside my mom's house right now. This is the signs that she made outside of her house to replace the Trump sign that was stolen. So she's decided that every time a Trump sign gets stolen, she's gonna put two Trump signs out, which is why she has two Trump signs. Um, and I told her, Mom, I don't think you have to worry about anybody stealing these Trump signs. I really don't. I think these Trump signs will last forever. Black blue-eyed Trump. I don't know what my mom. I gave my mom so much flack for that. It was so funny. It was so funny. Um, here's her house. I'll show you. I'll show you a picture of the beautiful house. I mean, she's got. I mean, it's just a beautiful house. She has huge pictures. This is it. Look at the woman for Trump sign. There's only women who live in that house. You got a Trump flag. It says, what does the sign say? I think it says no more bullshit on it. I mean, that's my mom. That's my mom right there. But beautiful house. Beautiful. So, but I mean, that Trump sign is fantastic. Um, let me see if we got because we talk political in our family Discord. I have a family Discord. Um, and let me see. I think we got. Let's share a few more things in here. Let's see. Here we go. What do we got? Watch this. Rav, you remember this? Get our good 2020 memes going in here. Oh, good golly, I could watch that forever. What else we got? We got no JoJo, no. Here we go. Oh, good golly. What else we got? What else we got that's hmm. I know we might have. I know I have some more Trump stuff. Let's see. Hey, I'm Boomer. I'm Boomer. Here we go. We got another Boomer one for you. It says, man, why can't I zoom? Can I zoom it? Can I zoom it? Here we go. Here we go. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Ginsburg just died, and I would very much like to take her place. Well, it's all right with me if it's okay with the funeral home. um, let's see. Um, I know we got some pretty good political memes. Hmm. No, maybe not. Hmm. Nope. I think that's about it. I think that's about it. That's all I got. I'm gonna leave you with blackface Trump. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I'm gonna end the stream here. And yeah, you guys have a fantastic night. All right. See you later. Bye, guys.